Hi everybody, Linda Carroll here from my studio, Gather of Great Things, and I am on the 8th day of Christmas in my weird and wonky collage series. I hope that you're enjoying this series. I've read all the comments on my YouTube page. I haven't answered them yet, but I want to tell you, I really enjoy the fact that people are getting involved in the collages and reading into them and spending some time with them to see what symbols they can find and giving me suggestions of what they would do or what they would have done. I love that. I love the fact that you're responding and having a conversation with the collages, much like I do. So let's get on with the 8th day of Christmas. And as you can see in the little wonder book, the 8th day of Christmas took up 2 pages because there are 8 maids a milking. So I had to figure out a way to use the artwork on one page because the page happened to fall at the end of a signature. So I couldn't do a double page spread and have it flow across 2 pages. So I really started thinking about how I was going to do that. And I knew I was going to have to overlap my images. So what I did is I fussy cut out my 8 maids a milking. And I got a little bit carried away because this is where I went to on my page. I had torn out this image of a stairway out of the magazine that I'm working with, and I thought, well, okay, what if I put my maids and my cows walking up or standing on the steps. And that way it would give it some perspective too, because these 3 are a little bit smaller than the 5 up in the front. So I fussy cut out my cows and my maids, and I placed them on these steps. And I have to say, the steps kind of reminded me of the Spanish steps in Rome, which you're not allowed to loiter on anymore. Anyway, I did place them. And at that point in time, they did have their heads on. The cows still had cow heads. So now I had to decide what I was going to do to change the image. So I started thinking about, okay, I've put these images in a different environment. I've put them from a page into a cityscape, and I like that. This has a hint of surrealness about it, with the cows and the maids going up the steps. And then I started thinking about, well, what could I replace in here? What could I replace to still tell a story and bring in my little weirdness and wonkiness? So what I did is I cut off all the cows' heads, and what I ended up with is some cow head confetti, which I think is pretty cool, and I'm sure I'll use this at some point in time in another collage or image or something. So, and then I thought, okay, what can I replace the cow heads with? What do I have a lot of to replace the cow heads? Well, first I thought, well, you have stamps. You have a lot of stamps. And I had a couple of them out here. And first I took a stamp and put it here. And I went, well, that would work. But it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't the look I wanted. So that idea went out the window. And then I thought, well, you have a lot of birds. You have a lot of birds, and you have a lot of bird heads. Because last year, I had a bird book, I think it was Birds of North America, and I went through and I fussy cut out all of the birds in this book. So I have a lot of birds. Oops. And they're all stashed in these little acetate envelopes, and I still haven't quite figured out what to use to attach this so that they don't keep falling out. If you have any ideas, please leave it in the comments below. I'd have to be able to take it off and put it back on. I thought maybe little Velcro buttons. But anyway, I have a lot of birds. So I chose some birds, and indeed some of them I just had the heads. And I put the bird heads in place of the cow heads, and I went, okay, that's the look that I'm going for. And you know, and all these little birds kind of started talking to one another, and they talked to me, and I thought, this is very different from some of the other ones I've done. There's a lot of repetition here. There's perspective that is kind of realistic, actually. But that's okay. It's dark, and that's one thing that that kind of bothered me. The background is dark, and this illustration is kind of dark too. And I did not cut out between in these little tiny spaces. And I haven't quite decided yet whether I want to. I didn't really cut out here because that's where they overlap. But maybe I should. These two pieces are tacked down in place. So I don't want to lift them up. So if I cut them out, I'm going to have to cut them out in place. So let's see. Maybe I do. Maybe I want to do that. And see, I can always glue this back if it appears to be just too dark. Okay, like that. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and glue my bird heads down. And I'm going to have to adjust them a little bit because I do want them to look like they are popping out from behind the scarf here. So I'm going to have to kind of adjust them just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to have to glue carefully the rest of my image down. So while I do this, I think I'm just going to put some music on and speed through this so you can still see my process, but it won't bore you to tears. Okay, everything is glued down in place, and I have my little cowbirds, and I guess there is such a thing as a cowbird. I have my cowbirds all reheaded and transformed into cowbirds. And you know, I could stop right there and say, okay, here we are. Here's our 8 maids a milking. But I don't have a number in here yet. So I found my number 8 from the set that I had downloaded, which I did leave a link below in yesterday's video. And I thought, well, that's, you know, that'll work definitely in here. There's a lot of red. But then I had these fox heads kind of just laying around here with my bird heads. And I thought, you know, maybe there's something going on here in the hen house. So I thought there could be a little bit of something that would be causing especially this bird here, to be yelling and letting everybody know that something is going on. Something is amiss in the city. And I thought maybe this fox was creeping up on this group. And maybe, like right here, barely in sight of everybody, over here. And then I had another one, and I cut the head off, and I thought, this one could be peering over top of this wall up here in the corner. And because this cardinal is looking the other way, he doesn't see him. And this one's looking down, this one's looking over here. Nobody's really aware that he is kind of peeking in on them. So that's 2. And I have a third one here. Let me see what I can do with this one. When I lived in Baltimore, I was surprised to learn that there really were foxes that roamed the city streets. I guess because there were, you know, definite green areas in the city, plenty of food for them in the trash cans and in the squirrel and rat population. So they had learned to live a rather good life in the city. And here at the beach as well. They are quite prevalent in my neighborhood. Other people have seen them. I haven't seen one yet. And a friend of mine who lives in San Antonio said she had a fox living up in a tree in her yard. Okay, that's a little bit different, having an element come from outside of the image itself kind of peeking around the corner, but I really kind of like that. So we have this one, we have this one, this one. So we have a triangle going here, kind of circling around the page. And I have a number 8. Kind of like that. Having the fox interact with the number 8. Okay, it's beginning to change a little bit. And we only have one cowbird that is really aware of what's going on. This one's kind of daydreaming out here in his own little world. The maids are totally unaware, I think, of what's going on. So I think they need to be in the picture. So let's introduce our foxes. He's kind of peeking over this edge up here. And he is going to be kind of hiding behind the 8 or creeping in over the top of it. Let's see what's going on the back side of this. And I think I'm going to have to cut that off. So think it's really interesting that I went from such a really light and bright color palette here to such a dark palette here. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit and do probably a little bit of writing around it. One thing I can say about working with collage, it can be very therapeutic, and it can be very meaningful if you are really involved in the symbolisms and the numbers and looking for meaning in artwork and colors and so on and so forth. So this one is really different, I think, from the rest of the collages, and I like it. But it's just a little bit, oops, I had cut through 2 pieces of paper here. It's a little dark in areas, I think. Okay, I still need my words, 8 maids a milking, here. So let's try. I really like putting the subject in the number area. Let's see if it will fit in this one. Barely, but it does. I need to turn the word around. Okay. 8 maids a milking cowbirds. I think I'm going to have to look up the meaning of cowbirds, if there is any symbolism. And the number 8 and the fox. I'd be interested to know what you think about the meaning of this collage. It's definitely telling a story. It's definitely a little bit sinister, I think. But there's a reason for it, I'm sure. I'm not sure what it is. But this one I started late last night. I was tired. And And I think I might do a little bit more as far as touching up areas and making the images blend into the background a little bit more. So I think I'm going to call this one done. And I'd like to hear your comments about the meaning of this particular, if it has a meaning. You know, it doesn't have to have a meaning. It can just be what it is. It can just be a kind of quirky, wonky, weird little world that these characters inhabit. So there may not be any deep meaning, and that is perfectly fine. I'm the type of person, I look for meaning in everything. So I'm going to have to really look at this and maybe do a little bit of research. And I told you earlier, I love research. So, and see if there are any subtle meanings in here that I may have missed. Somebody commented on my YouTube in the comment section that the peacock feathers symbolize the eye of God. So I really like that. And 12, you know, there were also 12 disciples. So there's usually a lot more going on than we're totally aware of, I think, in this kind of work. So anyway, I'm going to call this one done, and I hope you enjoyed this. It's kind of quick and but fun. And I think I'm going to take my cow confetti and call this a day in the studio. I have a lot of cleaning up to do yet from the holidays. So, well, that's interesting. Who knows? The next time you see this, it may be totally different. So, anyway, I hope you're having a great day or evening. Many blessings to you. Bye for now.